Hi, this is James, and in this recording, we had a conversation, we meaning Chelsea and I had a conversation regarding mirroring. We started to call ourselves a mirroring partnership, and we had a really good conversation. I decided to record it because I thought it would be something that we could pass along. And it has to do around perception and perspective. And the first thing I want to do before I start is to thank everybody who has subscribed, liked, and commented on my videos. If you like this content, basically the way that I see it is that it's a vote for the world we want to be a part of. And I know at Paradigm B, we're going for the new world, new earth. These are some of the words that are being used for this idea, and the Paradigm B is just another voice in that. And so if you like things, and then give them love and push them up in consciousness. It's basically just we're just agreeing to what is cool next. So thank you very much. So on mirroring, we we understand that perception, each of us has a different perception. We are all individuals, and we have different history, and we have different relationship with this world. So we all have a unique perception of the world. But what we can do, what we've been able to understand is that we can change our perspective about the world, and when that happens, our perception can change. And it's been wonderful to have Chelsea in my life as a mirroring partner, in that basically in mirroring, we see the other in a certain way. And this is what we discussed was, how did we see a mirror? What is the mirror doing for you? How is it changing your way that you're seeing yourself to change your perspective so that you will have a different perception of the world? Because basically it's the idea that we want to have the best ride. So we're not choosing a belief system based upon a moral guide, a moral compass, a religion, a certain philosophy, but rather looking that we can change our perception and see how we connect with the world. And when we connect with the world from the point of view of beauty, seeing things from a bigger perspective, understanding that we're all one, we're all part of this. Morality just comes along for the ride. Where in Paradigm A, they fight over identities are saying my virtue is much better than your virtue, and my morals are better than my morals, and then they follow a path or words that say this is the right way and this is what God wants, and we just drop that, and we're in Paradigm B, where we're changing our perspective so that our perception can be clearer. You can put that into, many different lights, as far as under many different lights, such as, that when we change our perception or our perspective, we become lighter. So that means we would be going towards enlightenment, and not necessarily saying we want to be enlightened beings, but when we are moving that way, what we're figuring out is the happier we are, the more content we are, the more loving we are. What happens is these lower frequencies, what would say is more of a dense frequencies, we're not a part of those. We're not playing in those games any longer. We are finding that when we are lighter, we have more beautiful perspective, and whatever change we have in us is a good change we imagine is good for everybody. And so we can dial it down to our perspective. We can agree on our perspective. So we could agree that our perspective is that, let's say there's an orange, the fruit, the orange sitting in front of us, and we could say the color of this is yellow, and we would agree to that. But our perspective on oranges could be very different, in that Chelsea could had a bad eaten a bad orange one day, and then her how she feels about it and how she connects with oranges now has been tainted by that experience. Whereas I had a great example of our experience with oranges, so it's one of my favorite fruits. And those are just made up ideas, just to show that our perspective can be, we can get to very simple that it is an orange, but then how we feel about it and the sensations we have could be different. And then, so we got into the conversation, and this is this transparent relationship and this honesty that we have with each other. We're really dialing in our emotional states, our emotional guidance states, emotions, feelings, and thoughts. And with honesty, then we're sharing like what is happening, if we're being pricked inside, these kind of things. And we understand the idea, and we're getting to understand the idea better about, or we're both interested in, let's just say, mirroring. The fact that we can use the outside, external as a mirror. So when we are judged or judge other things, we can use that as a means of transforming ourselves and what we want to experience, or we want basically the most beautiful perspective that we can hold, and live in the higher frequencies and have love be just more and more of our daily lives. And so, but we got into a conversation last night, and I thought I would record it because it was interesting, because we started talking about mirroring, and then we started talking about how we perceived what mirroring was. What were we doing internally to change and to guide us to use mirroring to change our own perception of the world and our own we basically are like talking mirrors with each other. We speak to each other, and then we have to trust how we feel, and then we're hoping the other person gives us really good feedback so that we can understand what mirroring is. And it was interesting. It was an interesting conversation because we seemed to have different ways that we were using mirroring as a guide. And I just thought, oh, this could be something that could be interesting for people to look at. How we can say we want to do the same thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the person uses the tool in the way that the other person uses the tool. So the whole time I kind of was under the impression we were doing mirroring, and it didn't really occur to me that maybe we don't understand what mirroring is exactly for each other, and how we're using it as a guide for our elevation and our buoyancy. So here's that conversation, and I hope you're having a most amazing day. All right, so the conversation is about mirroring and how we perceive, how we use mirroring, the idea of the mirror, to guide us. And Chelsea was about to respond on how she feels this understanding has helped her change her perspective.
So, mirroring how I understood it before was
Before when?
before a year ago,
Okay.
we'll say.
Okay.
Was basically, I know this might sound really kooky, but it's finding myself in everybody else. And it's like the projecting love onto everybody else. So I wasn't mirroring, but that's what I thought I was doing
Okay, that's interesting. So this is prior
prior.
to about a year ago. You thought of mirroring as I need to project love onto people.
I am the reflection of love that they're going to see the love within themselves.
This is great.
And that's what I thought
Okay.
I was doing.
And so now, what do you think mirroring is?
So now I see mirroring in more of that tool perspective. If there is, um, I guess I look at it like if there's an irritation or if there's any friction, then that's when the mirror comes out of there's such a strong correspondence to like identity is mixed up, like I'm mixing identity, my identity, with you, and that's how the mirror is helping me with understanding it as a different kind of tool.
Mm.
So one thing that I say more than anything has helped me get it gives me like almost an instant of, I would say it's kind of along the lines of empathy, because I'm trying to go into what you're experiencing.
Oh, okay. All right. Like a practice to tap into empathy.
Yes.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about how empathy is actually a skill, that you can actually find it. And I find that, yeah, and maybe that's what I've just always been good at, or not always, and getting better about understanding another person's perspective. And understanding where that also set me back into codependent kind of places where I made an assumption about somebody's world without actually really knowing their world. I think that's been a very helpful thing for what my mind chews on. And yeah, and my exploration is probably starting out when we started talking about mirroring. It was feedback like the way that it feels right now, in the murkiness of not really understanding it at the time when we decided to do it. It was kind of it was an exploration about my my sensations. So if we were in a talk and there was any kind of um, resistance, like animosity or anger or whatever else, when I was in that I would take that back. Like I would take that and be like, oh, okay, this isn't directing me the way that I want it to. But this other part of my mind was like, this is how you set things straight, is with this resistance and with adding a little bit of emotion behind it. And that has gone and really been pinpoint focused lately. Of the mirror for me is not coming from a place of emotion. And if I'm feeling like I have resistance, that's my mirror that's alerting me to the sensation inside of me, a resistance sensation, to go, what's this here for? And then to feel into it. And that just became very logical to me as I learned to understand that the sensations that I had while I was making the choice to allow words to come out, um, after lots of self awareness and just like my own science, I figured out that the quality of my thoughts, or the quality of my inner being, projected the most powerful and beautiful perspectives. So for me, it's been really the subtlety. Like you see me, like when I'm getting upset and I'm like as soon as that happens, I start to redirect and go, okay, hang on a second. This is my mirror that's mirroring back to me, and that's my guide now. It's just like if I feel that, it's like, okay, then that these words that are coming out, I'm probably going to take a retake and say those aren't going to be my high. This isn't going to be what's going to be the most communicative, the most collaborative between us. So let me find a better resonance and then see what thoughts come after that resonance. Cool. Yeah, and it's funny because you really, that when it comes down to it, it's like your cavalcade of perspectives and your history has you seeing perspectives from different angles. And even though you're saying that we both had the same intention, that we were an understanding of mirroring partners, but yet we were using the guide and the tool differently. And how we saw what that meant to have a mirror.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's now just kind of like how I see even nature. It's not even with everything's a mirror. And
Yes.
like I think the thing that I would get rid of is any of the analytical parts of my mind that created value judgments about like which animals I prefer.
Right.
It's like you're all here, and
Yeah.
if I think you're a wackadoodle animal, it's like, well, that creates a wackadoodle is like that's resistance in me. I got to change my perspective. You're
There's
gonna
a platypus.
you stay the
in
same.
every group.
I'm gonna and I will change my perspective, sir. Yes, Mr. Platypus.
Yes.
I apologize for all the ridicule
Yes.
that I gave you, and I'm gonna take that back now,
Yeah.
and just using that mirror and the tool, like everywhere, that anything. I'm not going to have a. I don't need to make a value. The only value judgments I need to make is this thing gonna hurt me, and
Right.
and then it's like, okay, that's more of an instinct
Yeah.
than an actual needing to get mad to take on the bear.
Right.
It's like, you know what, just allow your instincts to go. It might be worthy to throw a little adrenaline into this situation so we can get this party started a little quicker.
Yeah.
Did we get it? Did we hit mirroring? Pull it all together?
I think so.
Lovely.